This presentation will seek to provide information around the eligibility of software development activity under the R&D tax incentive. The information presented is derived from an AusIndustry guidance publication entitled Software Activities and the R&D Tax Incentive. This was released in February 2019 and is available on their website. Eligibility of software development activities under the R&D tax incentive has been widely discussed in the media in recent years, and some high-profile claims have been found to be ineligible. The ATO and AusIndustry also issued a taxpayer alert back in 2017, advising that they had concerns around the nature of claims being lodged and that they would be closely reviewing claims that involve software development activities. General concerns were with respect to claims that register a whole single project, that is, companies did not distinguish eligible R&D activities from ineligible activities, activities that do not generate new technical knowledge or do not have technical outcomes unable to be determined in advance based on available software development knowledge, and activities that apply existing knowledge or processes to a company's situation rather than generate new technical knowledge via experimentation. In an effort to help companies better understand the requirements for eligibility of R&D, AusIndustry published a series of guidance publications, including one for software-based activities. When registering a potential software development project, it is important to break down and assess the constituent activities of a project under the criteria of the R&D tax incentive. In doing so, a company should consider that a project may contain one or more of three types of activities. 1. Activities that may be core R&D activities. 2. Activities that may be supporting R&D activities. Or 3. Activities that are neither core nor supporting and are therefore not eligible under the R&D tax incentive. These should not be included in the company's registration. As a refresher on the eligibility requirements, for each core R&D activity registered, companies must demonstrate the following: that the activity was conducted for a significant purpose of generating new technical knowledge, that the outcomes could not be known or determined in advance on the basis of current knowledge, information, or experience, how the experimental activity was carried out, that is, describe the systematic progression of work undertaken. Supporting R&D activities are those activities that are directly related to and necessary for the conduct of a core R&D activity. Ineligible activities are those that do not meet any of the above criteria. We will next explore in a bit more detail how these definitions are applied to a software project. When assessing if a software development activity meets the definition of a core activity, keep in mind that core activities are experimental activities. A registered core activity must be described and documented as an experiment. The experiment must be carried out by applying a systematic progression of work. To establish if this is the case, at each stage, a company must record and be able to demonstrate to AusIndustry what the hypothesis being tested was, what the experiment or set of related experiments was, and how it was conducted, what the results of the experiment were, and what conclusions about the hypothesis were drawn from the results. The activities must be conducted for the purpose of generating new knowledge. Take care to ensure that the knowledge to be generated from the experiment is new and was not already available on a worldwide basis at the time the activities were conducted. Knowledge sought from an experiment cannot just be new to a particular context or to the company. The knowledge to be sought must be that which can only be generated by undertaking an experiment as part of a systematic progression of work. If a company can access the knowledge without needing to undertake a systematic progression of work, then it will not be considered new knowledge for R&D eligibility purposes. Additionally, companies registering activities under the R&D tax incentive are expected to do a thorough search to ensure the knowledge sought doesn't already exist or is not publicly available. Records of this search should be filed before the R&D activity commences. When documenting a core R&D activity, it must include a clear statement of the activity's hypothesis, which would be scrutinized in the event of a review by AusIndustry. The activity hypothesis is an explanatory statement that can be proven or disproven by conducting an experiment. It must relate to a specific technical or scientific uncertainty that is being tested by an experiment, and must not relate to the objective of the project as a whole. A hypothesis will generally direct the design and conduct of the experiment, observation, and evaluation. The Oz Industry Guidance provides the following examples of acceptable and unacceptable hypotheses for software claims. First, let's look at the acceptable hypotheses. Compression algorithm version 1 will compress a 12 megapixel image without exceeding the limits of the low power processor. Test algorithm version 1 will enhance speed of the alpha data extraction tool to interrogate the dataset and accurately return relevant error-free data within 20 milliseconds. These both include specific technical variables and measurable goals that can be used to define the success or failure to prove the hypothesis. It is largely clear what is being developed and what the outcome should be. However, consider this hypothesis: whether particular computer software can be developed to include the latest research from the planning community. Oz Industry considers this unacceptable. It is vague and too broad. It also may imply the whole project, that is, the whole piece of software, is being claimed. Once a hypothesis for a core activity is defined, a company must then consider the manner in which the experiment is conducted and documented. Experiments should involve a series of tasks that are undertaken in a planned and systematic way to evaluate the stated hypothesis. Experimental steps should be recorded such that they can be repeated by a competent professional in the field. This means that Oz Industry must be able to understand and replicate the process undertaken as part of their review of whether the activities may be eligible. Upon completion of each experiment, key observations should be noted and conclusions made. Where experiments do not yield the required results, the inputs to the experiments, that is, the code or design parameters, may be varied and further experiments undertaken until such time that the outcome is known or able to be determined. Oz Industry Guidance notes that failed or abandoned experiments may still be eligible if the relevant criteria are met. Failed experiments conducted as part of an activity may also help to demonstrate that there was an unknown outcome, unable to be determined in advance. During compliance reviews, Oz Industry will often ask for examples of specific failures or challenges encountered as part of an activity. The new guidance for software development R&D also emphasizes the importance of describing how core R&D activities seek to generate new technical knowledge as opposed to applying existing knowledge. The knowledge generated must be new to the world or not reasonably available to a competent professional working in the field. For the purpose of justifying an activity as core R&D, it is not sufficient that the knowledge generated is new just to the company conducting the activity. The Oz Industry Guidance does, however, state that in some cases, knowledge might be known or likely to exist, but is not known publicly because of confidentiality. If this is the case, it will still be new knowledge under the definition of core R&D activities. Once the core activities in a project have been assessed and defined, a company may consider any eligible supporting activities. An activity that does not meet one or more of the core eligibility criteria, but is necessary and directly related to a core R&D activity, may still be allowed by the program as a supporting R&D activity. A supporting activity must have a direct, close or relatively immediate relationship with one or more core R&D activities. Note that some activities may only be eligible as supporting activities if they are undertaken for the dominant purpose of supporting a core activity. This additional requirement occurs when an activity is specifically excluded from being a core R&D activity, for example, software for internal administration, market research, market testing, or market development, or an activity is related to producing goods or services. It is worth noting that a supporting activity may occur before, during, or after core activities. Some examples of supporting activities from the guidance include literature searches, coding algorithms used in experiments, and preparation of datasets to be used in experiments. Companies must, however, not fall into a trap of assuming that anything that is not a core R&D activity will automatically qualify as a supporting activity, even if it was required to be done in the context of the overall project. During compliance assessments, AusIndustry will seek to ensure that only activities directly related to core activities are included. AusIndustry will also seek to ensure that ineligible activities, neither qualifying as core nor supporting, have been excluded from a claim. Some development activities are specifically referenced as not being allowable as core R&D activities. This is due to a specific exclusion in the legislation, which applies to software development activities for internal administration, such as CRMs and accounting software. AusIndustry guidance also specifies that the following are generally not considered to be eligible core activities: beta and bug testing, user acceptance and system testing, data mapping and data migration testing, testing efficiency of different algorithms that are already known to work, testing websites in operation by measuring the number of hits, and routine computer and software maintenance, as well as some other activities. AusIndustry considers that these activities are generally not conducted as experiments to test a specific hypothesis. As noted earlier, such activities may be supporting if undertaken in direct relation to an eligible core activity. We also want to highlight that recent AusIndustry guidance has sought to adopt principles from the Frascati Manual. This is an international document published by the OECD. The Frascati Manual applies the approach that activities will be R&D if they embody scientific or technological advances that result in an increase in the stock of knowledge. The following examples are given in the Frascati Manual of software development activities that may involve R&D. Development of new operating systems or languages, new search engine technologies, resolving conflicts within hardware or software by re-engineering a system, creation of new algorithms based on new techniques, or creation of new encryption techniques. The Frascati Manual also prescribes that the following activities will usually not involve R&D: activities of a routine nature, solutions to problems overcome in previous projects, development using existing knowledge or known tools, and routine customization or debugging. Finally, we wanted to provide some guidance on the nature of records that should be kept by a company to support a software R&D claim. A company's records must demonstrate that the outcome of the experiments, that is, whether the hypotheses were true or false, could not have been known or determined in advance. Suitable records for this may include literature reviews or correspondence showing the company attempted to attain the knowledge they sought before undertaking their own experimentation. Records must also show that experiments are conducted for the purpose of generating new knowledge. Suitable records for this may include minutes from the outset of the project that discuss the need to conduct experiments. A company's records must also show that a systematic progression of experimental work was undertaken. For this, a company should ensure that they can show for each core activity records of each step of the experiment, code repositories or software versions with comments from the experimental process, including description of deficiencies from their hypothesized solutions that were identified and rectified. Records for supporting R&D activities must also detail how and why they are directly related to an eligible core activity. AusIndustry has also provided some case studies in earlier years with worked examples applying the R&D tax incentive requirements to various scenarios. These are available in an AusIndustry guidance document titled ICT and the R&D Tax Incentive. We encourage you to review these examples. A summary of their content is listed here. This concludes our presentation on the eligibility of software-based R&D activities. Should you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with our office. There is also additional material available on our website, as well as the websites of the ATO and AusIndustry. Thank you.